Good morning. Good standard time morning. And welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. I'm Jay Leach, one of this community's ministers, and my pronouns are he, him, his. So, the time has changed again. And as much as we may have welcomed that extra hour of sleep, we find the time change just one more thing, just one more change that we are having to accommodate. It's actually relatively easy to adjust to it compared to all of the other changes that we have faced in these now many months. Today's service admits that, acknowledges and echoes an ancient Buddhist spiritual truth. Everything changes. Nothing stays exactly the same. As our band will sing, everything breaks and gets broken. But today we also welcome, embrace, celebrate change. Today we take a momentous and exciting step forward, moving from our previously pre-recorded services to our more recent live stream only services, to today offering for the very first time a hybrid service, both for those of you watching by way of a screen and to a group that is now gathered in our sanctuary. After months of interminably lonely services, I am so delighted to be able to gather with real live people in the very same room. And in fact, I think I'll go join them now. Welcome.
What a beautiful sight you are here in this room. I wish those of you who are watching this by way of our live stream could see this well. So we need to let you know that there really are people in this room. And since we can't yet go about this room as we once did, shaking hands and hugging as the service is beginning, we can take this opportunity to welcome the rest of our community that is watching in their homes. So I invite you to rise in body and or spirit. And I invite you to turn around and face the booth. You'll see a target there. That's actually where the camera is. And on the count of 3, I invite you to shout with as much exuberance as you can find, "Good morning." Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Welcome, welcome all. Now I invite you to remain standing and listen closely as John leads us in a musical experience.
I'm coming. So even though our COVID safety guidelines don't permit us to sing as a congregation, we can still hum and make music. So we're going to invite you to hum our opening song. If we could do the slide with the lyrics, that would be great. So we have 4 distinct lines and 4 distinct melodies. And we're going to teach you each one. Okay, so the first one goes like this. Hum with me and again. Very good. The second one goes like this. Let's try it. Ready, hum. Again. Great. The third one goes like this. Let's do it together. Again. Good. And the last one goes like this. Let's try it. Again. You guys are amazing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to layer it in. So you guys get to pick which one, 1 through 4, and we'll start with 1, we'll sing it or we'll hum it twice, and then we'll add the second layer, and then we'll add the third layer, and then the fourth. So once you long onto a line, just stay with it. Okay, so here we go with the first line. All you first liners, sing, hum with me, and line 2. Line 3. Line 4 now. Thank you. Please remain standing.
In safely distanced sanctuary seats and on screens of varying kinds, Unitarian Universalists across the country are coming together again this morning. As we gather, both here in this room and on screens in our homes, we join these other congregations in kindling again the light of a chalice, the sacred symbol of our liberating faith we share with these other communities. May the flicker of this flame be for us a beacon, drawing us together in hope, compassion, and strength as we gather to celebrate once again.
Please hum as we sing. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come? What are we? Where are we going? Thank you.
Welcome. I'm Susan Cox, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I've been a member of this community for 27 years. Welcome especially to anyone who may be just discovering our community here in this room, watching this live stream service, or viewing the recording afterward. We're delighted that even in this challenging time, newcomers are continuing to find us. We hope you find meaning in your time with us today. If you'd like to learn more about us, or perhaps arrange to have a conversation with one of our ministers, reach out to our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. You can email her at kelly@uuccharlotte.org. Again, to each of you, welcome.
The caterpillar and Alice looked at each other for some time in silence. At last, the caterpillar took the hookah out of its mouth and addressed her in a languid, sleepy voice. Who are you?
I hardly know, sir, just at present. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then.
What do you mean by that? Explain yourself.
I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir, because I'm not myself, you see.
I don't see.
I'm afraid I can't put it more clearly, for I can't understand it myself to begin with, and being so many different sizes in a day is very confusing.
It isn't.
Well, perhaps you haven't found it so yet, but when you have to turn into a chrysalis, you will someday, you know, then after that into a butterfly, I should think you'd feel it a little queer, won't you?
Not a bit.
Well, perhaps your feelings may be different. All I know is it would feel very queer to me.
You? Who are you?
I think you ought to tell me who you are first.
Why? Come back. I have something important to say. Keep your temper.
Is that all?
No. So you think you're changed, do you?
I'm afraid I am, sir. I can't remember things as I used to, and I don't keep the same size for 10 minutes together.
What size do you want to be?
Well, I'm not particular as to size, only one that doesn't like changing so often, you know?
I don't know. It was an act, I assume, of genuine concern. I received a call from a number I did not recognize and from a person I do not know, unprompted, unsolicited, unexpected. In a world that can at times be so insensitive, here was a perfect stranger who took it upon herself to call and let me know, you're not going to believe this, my car's warranty is about to expire. Such cynics in this room. I certainly hope those of you watching at home are more trusting of your fellow human beings. I'll admit, I was surprised. I didn't actually realize that a warranty was still in effect for my 14-year-old car, the one pushing 200,000 miles. But because I was able to provide this concerned caller with just a bit of my personal information, she only needed my credit card number, my social security number, and my bank account information. Now I can relax. I am once again protected. So touched was I by her act of kindness that I went to our congregation's directory and I provided her with many of your names and numbers. Should you get a call from her this week, you can thank me later. My experience would, it seems, also come as a surprise to poet Jehanne Dubrow. She begins one of her poems Sometimes we wonder what unfailing means when nothing's warranted to last. The point, too, at least at its most basic level, is about a car. Our car, she writes, breaks down among the clay red hills, ravines, unmarked, nowhere, New Mexico. But when I first read it, I found myself lingering over that initial line. Sometimes we wonder what unfailing means when nothing's warranted to last. Hers is a contemporary take on an ancient Buddhist spiritual truth, what Buddhists call impermanence. Not only did the Buddha teach that nothing's warranted to last, he emphasized that, in fact, nothing lasts. In one of his talks included in the voluminous collection of Buddhist sutras, the Buddhist emphasized our bodies are impermanent, our feelings are impermanent, our perceptions are impermanent, our ways of thinking are impermanent, our very consciousness is impermanent. Isn't that part of the hard lesson that we have been learning since the onset of this pandemic so many months ago? The way we'd always done things, or at least the way we claim we'd always done things, came crashing to a halt. Every single thing changed, proving that spiritual truth about their impermanence. Even those who have come through these months relatively unscathed are off balance, are, as my mom used to say, out of sorts, irritable and annoyed and looking for someone to hold accountable because nothing seems to be the same. If you find yourself in that condition, be assured you are not alone. So many of our children and youth are struggling. So many adults are fighting addictions or depression or are just hoping for some solid ground, something we can rely on. I'm not actually sure that a new warranty for our cars is going to address the depth of our needs. No offense to my new concerned friend. What was in prior times something we could talk about here in a more theoretical, abstract way is now a more obvious, undeniable spiritual truth. The poet had it right. Nothing is warranted to last. The Buddha had it right. At the very heart of our lives is an often hard spiritual truth. Impermanence is the very nature of things. What can we? What should we do? Perhaps for starters, we can let up on ourselves. Alice was right. Some days it is hard to know who we are after having had so many changes, so many unwanted changes thrust upon us. Alice was right. One doesn't like changing so often, you know. The Buddha named it. We suffer in part because we don't want impermanence to be true. We cling to the way things were, to how they are supposed to be, to the way we think they should be now. And in our clinging, there is suffering. It's hard. You know this in your guts. it's hard. Let up on yourself. Recognize that in some way you too are suffering. And the fact that others, maybe even most others, have it way harder than you, it doesn't actually make your unsettledness any easier. Let up on yourself. Here's something else we can do. Let up on others. Whoever we are complaining about, whoever we are complaining to, whoever we are blaming, criticizing, they're probably suffering some too. Behind our masks, both literal and psychological, our faces are etched with concern. Grief, worry, loneliness, struggle. Yet again, those words of Miller Williams, put to music by his daughter Lucinda Williams, apply. Have compassion for everyone you meet, even if they don't want it. You do not know what wars are going on down there where the spirit meets the bone. If a family member, friend, co-worker, public figure, if someone else isn't meeting our standards, isn't doing what we want, it just might be because they are suffering too. We now know what we may have only suspected before. Nothing's warranted to last. In such a world as this, at such a time as this, have compassion for yourself. Have compassion for all others.
This reading is from Snow Geese by Mary Oliver, titled, Why I Wake Early. Oh, to love what is lovely and will not last. What a task to ask of anything or anyone. Yet it is ours, and not by the century or the year, but by the hours. One fall day, I heard above me and above the sting of the wind a sound I did not know. And my look shot upward, It was a flock of snow geese, winging it faster than the ones we usually see, and being the color of snow, catching the sun, so they were, in part at least, golden. I held my breath, as we do sometimes, to stop time when something wonderful has touched us, as with a match which is lit and bright, but does not hurt in the common way, but delightfully, as if delight were the most serious thing you ever felt. The geese flew on. I have never seen them again. Maybe I will someday, somewhere. Maybe I won't. It doesn't matter. What matters is that when I saw them as through the veil, secretly, joyfully, clearly.
It was a week ago this morning. I was up very early, as is my habit on Sunday mornings when I'm leading a service. I was a bit bleary, on my way to my desk at home with my first cup of coffee. And then, as if intended to apprehend me, framed just so in a high window in our entryway was the sliver of a crescent moon. As I glanced up, the high clouds were drifting past, and as I watched, the moon would appear fully, be partially obscured, then disappear altogether, only to reappear again. This existence of ours, said the Buddha, is as transient as autumn clouds. It was beautiful, fleeting, a little glimpse I got just because I was up at that pre-dawn hour. It's true, I think, affirms poet Charles Wright, that all beauty depends on disappearance. The bitten edges of things, the gradual sliding away into tissue and memory, the uncertainty and dazzling impermanence of days we beg our meanings from, and their frayed loveliness. And this, of course, is another side of impermanence. That, well, I can't say it any better, that dazzling impermanence of days we beg our meanings from, and their frayed loveliness. Nothing lasts. And what better season to notice that than now? Permanence is unnatural. Our anger, our frustration that things don't stay the same is at odds with the natural order. Our nostalgic perception, which is always something of a misperception, that things were so much better in some prior time. Any sense, which is always a bit of nonsense, that we'd do better to give up on today's challenging efforts and revert back to yesterday's more comforting order of things. Such desires are unnatural. are at odds with the natural order of things. Along with loss and sadness, impermanence gives us fleeting glimpses of beauty that we would ignore were they permanent. Along with frustration and anger, impermanence gives us a reason to keep hoping for something better, for something truer and more beautiful. Along with a longing to stop time in its tracks, impermanence gives us relief. The knowledge that this too shall pass. That today's trough may become tomorrow's crest. That the current order of things may one day give way to something so much more like justice and equity. Impermanence thus reminds us yet again that all deep spiritual truths are paradoxical, asking us forever to see things in new and different ways. Deep spiritual truths weave comfort with challenge, loss with renewal, brokenness with transformation. And to decry the one while wanting only the other is to long for the harbor and miss the journey, is to cling to what is and lose what could be, is to look for the moon while cursing the clouds. Instead, there are only days of dazzling impermanence and frayed loveliness. It is from these that we can. It is from these that we must beg meaning, so that we will find sustenance for the days that lie ahead.
Many of us can relate to the sign on a manager's door where I worked many years ago and never forgot. Change is good. You go first. Psychologists talk about reactance. Reactance, the human tendency to resist change in behavior or attitude. Change, impermanence, uncertainty. To a few, change is almost always welcome, whether it's a new job, a new home, rearranging furniture. Others go into it kicking and screaming, hanging onto the door frame and bracing with both feet, fearful, seeking the perceived security of the known and predictable rather than the unknown. The devil you know. I was accepted into the early admission program at Chapel Hill, sight unseen, not unusual for that time. I smugly watched my friends wrestling during our senior year over where they would go and then whether they would be accepted. I knew what I was doing. I had a plan for the rest of my life. And then, in April of my senior year in high school, I actually went to the campus with a friend. I had a viscerally negative reaction. Too big, too anonymous, too overwhelming. I returned home, said nothing, got my roommate and dorm assignments. And at the end of July, 2 weeks before I was to leave, I announced to my parents that I did not want to go to Chapel Hill after all. With a remarkably calm response, they simply suggested I needed to make another plan, and rather quickly. So I took my transcript and I went out to UNCC, then a university of only 10,000 students, and convinced them they really wanted me to be there. It was a much better fit for me. At 18, I had my first understanding of the reality that plans and intentions are, well, only plans and intentions. And that shaking things up almost always creates unanticipated opportunities. When space is made in our lives, when we recognize and welcome the impermanence of our lives, possibilities are like water flowing in and creating new life. This is true also when we allow the status quo, which benefits only some, to be re-examined. It is all both terrifying and necessary. I think back now to March 2020. First, you may remember, we were told we were shutting down for 2 weeks. How did that work out? But at the time, it felt rather like a prediction of snow in Charlotte. Initial panic, long lines, and then time for a big breath and a settling silence. For some of us, that meant snuggling in and an opportunity for unstructured time, all completely unexpected. And for many, it was a crisis of epic proportions. For most everyone, it was out of our control. We were living on a foundation that changed every few weeks and slowly evolved to where we are today. We have created new normals that require constant reassessing. And it presents us all here in this space and in our personal lives with new opportunities. We can embrace change, acknowledge that the past as we knew it needed some shaking up, be grateful for lessons we did not anticipate or want to have to learn, and remember that, well, you know, trite as it sounds, change is the only certainty in our lives. Our decision now is whether to create claw marks on the doorframe or to let go and pass through with curiosity, invitation, and flexibility.
The heart of this community beats in this room and in all other spaces where this service is being shared now. Our concerns have always called us beyond these walls, and our connections have always transcended this space. A Unitarian Universalist colleague wrote to some of us this week asking specifically for our prayers for the community of Brunswick, Georgia, where she serves, and where the fraught Ahmaud Arbery trial is taking place. From Washington and from around our fractured and fractious nation come the pleas for prayers and for actions that would not settle for modest moderation when bold transformation is so desperately needed. From Scotland and from around our fragile planet come pleas for prayers and for action that will give those oppressed by environmental injustice some reason now to have hope. And from within our own community, shared joys with Tara Anderson in her recent marriage, with Judy Love in the birth of a grandchild, shared concerns for Tawana Wilson Allen, Manny Allen, and for their entire family, for Julie and Jacob Bessie, and shared sorrow, especially this morning, with Anthony Cipoletti, who just last week was back in our booth running video, and Amanda Cipoletti, who are grieving today the untimely death of Anthony's sister. And with Claire and Nick Lukens and their family, especially Claire's dad, Stephen Jones, Claire's stepmom, Stephen's wife. Angie is now under the care of hospice and in her final hours. I spoke with Stephen early this morning and assured him that we would be holding their family in our prayers as we gather today. I invite us to a time of meditation, quieting ourselves, deepening our breaths, closing our eyes. From Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh's metta prayer, a prayer for loving kindness. May I be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May she be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May he be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May they be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May I be safe and free from injury. May she be safe and free from injury. May he be safe and free from injury. May they be safe and free from injury. May I be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. May she be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. May he be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. May they be free from anger, afflictions, fear, and anxiety. May it be so.
If you are here in this room, you may have noticed our offering baskets as you entered. If you have not already done so, please consider making a generous contribution to these baskets as you depart the service today. If you're accessing our live stream, we offer many ways to give. You'll find them on the screen momentarily. The ritual of giving during the service reminds us of how interdependent we are. What we each give and do affects all of us. This offering helps sustain us as a place that offers the experience of both renewal and challenge.
Always a red
Please rise in body and our spirit and join me in this affirmation of our faith from Blackwater Woods by Mary Oliver. To live, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes, let it go. Let it go.
It is so wonderful to see people back in this room and to be able to direct a service to people who are actually in the same space at the same time. You are so much better looking than my computer screen. And I'm delighted that all of you are here, and it's not easy to recognize everyone with a mask on, and I hate to single anybody out, but John Lee, man, oh man, is it good to see you here. We've been holding John in our prayers, been through a rough go here these past few months. And some tough conversations along the way, and man, to see you here, such a beautiful thing. Welcome back. And to all of you, welcome back. It's only going to get better. This is discouraging in its own way. We're going to lose the masks at some point. We're going to have more people in here at some point. Hang in with us a little while longer. Let's get the numbers down. We're just following the guidelines as we've been told. So if you're here in this room, we want to remind you at the conclusion of the closing music, please don't linger in this space. Make your way safely, distance down the steps, and out to the traffic circle where we urge you to linger just as long as you possibly can, greeting one another and welcoming anyone who you do not know. If you are watching this service at home, you have not been forgotten, and you will not be forgotten. This we promise you. And for all of us, familiar words yet again. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage. For deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Please be seated.